about to leave. Already packing, come with me. I'm not.
Hello friends and enemies, welcome back to Happy For Now. It's me, Isabel, here with a video that I had requested on how I read so much. So we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna have a nice little sit-down chat, one-on-one today with each other to talk about my reading habits and how I got to this place of reading 200 and some books a year. I have already crossed the 200 book mark for this year, and that is my goal. Like, it's always 200 books now. On that note, let's just kind of talk about the history of it. Here is my Goodreads history of my goals. You will notice that previously I was reading I started off at like 50 to 75 books a year and have inched my way forward on these goals. I used to use a Goodreads group called 75 Books a Year, and I loved it as a way to track my reading, interact with other readers, and also to grow my reading. This was a lot of time where I was discovering what genres I really liked as an adult, outside of YA, and trying new things constantly. I mean, honestly, my Goodreads is a mess because I've been using it since 2008, 7, 9? I don't remember. Anyways, I've been on Goodreads for over 10 years. So I have a huge history on there of my reading journey. It's been a lot, y'all. But yeah, I didn't start off reading 200 books. Let's just make that very clear. It has been a process to get to 200 books a year. And I have continued to just set my goal at 200 books because I know I can do it. And however much I go over, great. I will probably never make my goal any higher than 200. But yeah, you can see here, like, 2020 is on track to be my biggest year yet since I've already hit 200 books in September. Usually I'm hitting it in November. Yeah. Anyways, you can see here that, like I said, it's like I went over 200 for a couple of years in a row. It was like 2018. I really hit the goal and like exceeded it, and I've just kind of kept going from there. But before we like dive into my strategy on how I do this, I just want you to ask yourself, why do you want to read 200 books a year? Or why do you want to read more? Is it because reading like fills you with joy like it does me? Because that's why I read so much. Reading is my comfort. It is my security. It calms my brain. It does so much for me, and I love reading. If that's like, if your why is just I want a bigger number, my advice to you right now, read graphic novels and comics and count them and then move on. Like, who cares? It's just a number. It's literally not about that. Like, for me, the 200 books means that I'm getting through my TBR at a decent rate, and that also I'm making sure I'm taking care of myself, because again, reading for me is self-care. So yeah, just ask yourself why, and let's talk about scheduling time. All right, guys, so scheduling time. What do I mean? What am I saying? My most basic advice if you want to read more is look at how you're spending your time. I track a lot of what's going on in my life in my Hobonichis, and in my digital bullet journal, to be honest, and I will block time every day to make sure I read. If you are not looking at your schedule and finding gaps to do something you enjoy, stop how you're planning your life and take a moment to please put some joy in it, because we're not here as humans to work, diet, exercise, and do all of these things we're supposed to do without also stopping to do things we enjoy in life, because that would be pointless, y'all. Like, seriously, don't do that. But on that point, I do schedule time. So I know that in the mornings I get up and I do my daily chore tasks, and I will listen to my audiobook while I do that. We'll get into that more later, but you know, I also know that I'm gonna go to bed at any time between 9 and 9:30 on a weeknight to make sure I can lay in bed for an hour and read a book. And that allows me to get oftentimes anywhere from 30 to 50% through a romance book. It just depends on the book. And I'm able to know that I will finish a book every 2 days when I do that, which means that I can read 150 books a year that way if I keep that pace, right? And yeah, knowing that I have time scheduled to read means that I always know I'm gonna have some downtime, and I make that time to read. I think you can incorporate this by like getting up 15 minutes early in the morning, and maybe you sit and drink your tea or coffee in the morning and read a book while you get ready for the day, and just to kind of ready your mind to venture into a new day. Or you could, you know that, okay, at my lunch at work, I'm gonna stop. Like, I'm gonna eat my food, I'm gonna read my book. That's 30 minutes or an hour, depending on your job, right? Or if you get a 15-minute break, why don't you read on it? Instead of scrolling on your phone the whole time, pick up a book. I find that very helpful for me personally, at least. And I know that when I have that schedule in my brain of like, okay, I'm gonna go to bed early so I can lay here and read this book, I get through a lot more books. A lot more books than I used to. And I'm not saying I do this every single night, because there are nights, I'm not gonna lie, I end up on TikTok. I end up scrolling and like, I can't stop. And that's okay. Like, you can't make the goal the end all be all of your reading life or your reading like status. Like, you don't feel like you're not a reader if you can't read more, right? We all have our limits, and that's totally cool. But yeah, for me, honestly, scheduling the time helps immensely. Let's go talk about downtime and those wasted minutes when you could be reading and you're not. So we all have downtime during the day, honestly, that we are missing out on reading, because the honest truth is, if you're doing dishes, why don't you have an audiobook on? If you are currently cleaning your house, why aren't you listening to an audiobook? I really make sure I maximize those time slots of the day. So if I have to fold laundry, I will make sure I have an audiobook ready to go that like is very interesting to me, so that I read that book while I fold laundry. Or I'm currently in my guest room, which is very messy, and I need to finish going through some stuff that I've stuck in here. And guess what? As soon as this video is done, audiobook and cleanup time. And I can't wait, because I've got audiobooks lined up I'm really excited about, which means I get to listen to something I'm excited about and take care of a task I don't really want to do personally. Yeah, I really think like if you are not maximizing your audiobook time with these downtime tasks you have in your day. And when I worked in a corporate office in a cubicle, I'm a project manager by trade, and like I had time where I could just listen to audiobooks while I did things like create schedules, check in with my team to see where they were at, send out communications. Yes, there were times when I had to turn off my audiobook to focus on the tasks, but a lot of the tasks I was doing are honestly, you could listen to an audiobook. If you're doing anything like that, like you can listen to an audiobook while you work. I mean, pending it's not like against the rules at your job, obviously, but those are times outside your commute that you may not be thinking about. And right now, a lot of us don't have commutes. So I know that like popping in an audiobook isn't always your first thought, but if you're just like working on a list for a project, why not? If you're a designer, why not listen to audiobooks while you design if you can? I mean, and obviously we all have different attention spans, but if you're able to multitask with that, I would say you need to maximize it as much as possible, y'all, because it's such a good trick. Because I could get through almost 2 books a day with audiobooks on my drive in at work, an ebook at lunch, and then I would usually finish that ebook at night in bed. Yeah, I know, wild. And then now in pandemic, I feel like I'm struggling. But anyways, beyond the point, I'm just saying, like, this advice applies with anything going on, right? Like, you need to maximize your time. Especially because nothing makes a dull task slightly more enjoyable than being able to listen to an audiobook or something you enjoy. So yeah, make sure y'all are maximizing your downtime. All right, one last tip I've got for y'all, and that is to utilize your resources. So I talked a lot about how audiobooks are basically the reason I'm able to read so much in a year, especially this year. This year, my reading, no joke, has been over 50% audiobooks. What I mean when I say utilize your resources, I already did a video earlier this week on Scribd versus Audible Escape. I'll link it up above in the cards and down below for you. I pay for services that I know I want to read a certain amount of books from each month because I pay for them. I want to get my money's worth if you want to check it out. But the big thing with those two for me is I know I'm paying $17 a month I know that on Audible Escape, I want to listen to at least one audiobook a month. Same thing for Scribd, Kindle Unlimited. I try to read 1 or 2 a month. That way I know I'm getting my money out of what I'm paying for these services. Also, I try to make sure I always have things like Libby ready to go with audiobooks or ebooks coming in as library requests, because I only have so long to read a library book before it gets returned. And generally speaking, if I'm getting a book from the library, I maybe waited a while for it. So it's hard to not want to get to it right away or prioritize it first. I also use Hoopla from my library a lot. I'm pretty much a power user, I feel like, of all of these platforms to maximize my ability to intake books at an affordable way, because I don't like spending $10 on an ebook. I'm not gonna lie, I really don't. So I like to utilize the services I pay for, because I do also pay for out-of-state library cards and make sure I am getting books from those libraries each month. Yeah, so just like make sure you sit down and like look at what your resources are around you to get books, so that you're not left thinking, oh no, I'm done with this book and I have nothing to read next. Instead, it should be, oh no, I'm done with this book, I have 5 options. Let me make a choice now before I finish it of what I want to dive into next, so I don't have that moment when I finish that last book of what's next. This is also why I personally always have at least 2 books going at a time. I will have an audiobook and an ebook going, sometimes 3. Usually if I have 3 going, one's like a nonfiction or very different from the other 2. But what I do is then I'm like, okay, my audiobook's done, or I've got an hour left. What other audiobooks do I have right now on my phone or available to me immediately that I'm interested in? I go from there and decide, right? So I know I just finished this book, I'm gonna pick up this new book that just came in from the library on hold because there's a huge wait list for it. Things like that will help defeat the like never-ending spiral of decision making, at least for me. And this, all of my advice comes to you as someone who has ADHD and suffers heavily in decision-making abilities and executive function. So I know that for me to read 200 books, I constantly have a list going of what I want to read next. And it's okay to also say, I don't want to read this right now. I'm going to return it. I'm going to come back to it later. Maybe you got 10% in and you didn't like it. Put the book down. It's okay. You do not have to finish everything you pick up. And you can also, you can DNF, or you can put it on a shelf you can make on Goodreads that says like, come back to later when you're in the mood for it. I mean, I do this a lot. You wouldn't even know how many books I've put down and just thrown back onto my want to read shelf because I got 10% in and wasn't feeling it right now. That's okay. Like you have to like take control of your reading life and not waste your time reading stuff that you don't want to read if you want to read more at the end of the day. And on that note, that's kind of all I got for you on how I read 200 plus books a year, or how to increase your reading. I hope that something was helpful in this. Let me know if you have any tips you think I missed in the comment box. If you made it this far, drop a book emoji in the comments. And I will be back with another video in just a few days. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. If you want to be friends with me anywhere on social media, there's links in the description box to everywhere you can find me, which is Goodreads, Instagram, and Twitter. There's also a Discord group for romance YouTube watchers and creators to come hang out with us and talk about romance books, which is always really exciting. We have a good time in there. I love getting to rec books as I finish them and talk about books, etc. in that Discord. It's just a total blast. You also will just find anything you need down there in that description box, so be sure to check it out. Bye y'all.
Really asking, we'll get away to a place where we don't know.